So we had a Stranger Things edition of Monday Night Raw to kick off 2026. We started off with Rhea Ripley and Io Sky defeating Asuka and Kairi Sane for the women's tag team titles. A decision that I think will be a short-lived one. I wonder if Rhea and Io get into a feud they've been teasing with Charlotte Flair and Alexa Bliss. Of course, you have Nia Jackson, last legend, over on the Blue brand. You have Bailey and Lyra Valkyria, who could potentially get involved in the women's tag team title scene down the line. You have, of course, Roxanne Perez and Liv Morgan, as Raquel Rodriguez is now focused on the Women's World Championship. I can very well see the Women's Elimination Chamber match this year, instead of it being for the number one contendership for WrestleMania, maybe they switch it up and they do it for the women's tag team titles. I believe it would be the first time since the titles were first decided inside the Elimination Chamber in the 2019 Chamber that the women's tag team championships would be on the line in the Elimination Chamber match. I think it would mix things up from the status quo of what has been the last couple of years. I still think Rhea Ripley versus Io Sky, Rhea Ripley getting her win over Io Sky could potentially be a WrestleMania match. I do think they need to pay that off. So, whether Rhea Ripley somehow wins the Women's World Championship between now, and maybe after the Elimination Chamber WrestleMania, or Io does over Stephanie Valkyrie, or however they want to set it up, because WrestleMania is just like a year ago, about 6, 7 weeks after the Elimination Chamber. It's not the first week in April. It is um April 18th and April 19th. So they have more time there to play with. Becky Lynch and Maxine, while they did have a little bit of a clunker in the Women's Intercontinental Championship match, I very much enjoyed their feud. I think the fact that they are hot-shotting the title, I could very well see now Becky Lynch holding the Women's Intercontinental Championship until WrestleMania when she faces AJ Lee. They've been building up this on one encounter, excuse me, ever since AJ Lee returned at WrestlePalooza. Of course, she got the victory in the mixed tag team match with her and her husband, CM Punk, against Seth Rollins and Becky Lynch. Now, let's go to the let's go to the world title match. Again, guys, I'm still getting over a cold. I'm sure you guys can probably tell. I'm a little bit wounded. I'm just trying to get back in the thick of things today, so I apologize. But I've seen a lot of complaints online that this match was overbooked. People complaining that Chris Jericho did not show up. And I say this all the time as a wrestling fan, that we as wrestling fans reading online and the rumors and the innuendos and the speculation, it sometimes is the worst thing as a wrestling fan, right? Because we all expect something. We all expected a huge night out of Stranger Things, and I'm not a Stranger Things fan, but we all expected Raw to be turned upside down and something crazy to happen. And in the end, WWE just booked this show. We got two title changes, and we got eyes on the product with the Stranger Things collab, and that's all this was. Of course, Rey Mysterio, Dragon Lee, Penta, they all come out to help CM Punk take out the Vision, which eventually leads us to a Braun Breaker CM Punk one-on-one match. There was a great moment where CM Punk ends up punching Paul Heyman. There was a moment where Braun Breaker does the Frankensteiner off the top rope. He misses. He then gets back up, hits the Frankensteiner. CM Punk hits the pile driver for a 2 count. Breaker would then go for a spear. Punk moves out of the way. Go to sleep. Breaker kicks out of two, which I thought was a great false finish because I thought that was the moment that Punk was going to retain. And then finally, after Breaker does the incredible jumping spot for the announce table, Breaker then goes for a spear. CM Punk hits the big knee to Breaker in the back of the head. Go to sleep. 1, 2, 3. CM Punk defeats Braun Breaker. And it was not due to outside interference because really the Vision interference did not affect the 1, 2, 3 count in this match. CM Punk, excuse me, CM Punk defeats Braun Breaker clean in the middle of the ring. 1, 2, 3. And I do think that, Wild One Jey Uso versus Gunther, which of course took place the Saturday before the Royal Rumble last year, Saturday night's main event. Maybe we do run this back with CM Punk and Braun Breaker. There's a lot of speculation out there that Braun Breaker, along with the OTC, are the two favorites to win the Royal Rumble match. They have been my two favorites to win the Royal Rumble match, really ever since this match between CM Punk and Braun Breaker on the first Raw of the year was announced. Of course, I did think there was a little bit of a chance you could take a risk. You could put the title on Braun Breaker. Seth Rollins maybe return to the Royal Rumble. Seth Rollins wins the Royal Rumble. Then you have Seth Rollins and Braun Breaker for the World Championship at WrestleMania. Maybe CM Punk moves on to Cody Rhodes and or Roman Reigns. But I do think the direction that we're going to go is either in the Elimination Chamber or the Royal Rumble. Braun Breaker is going to gain the number one contendership of the World Championship back. He will face CM Punk at WrestleMania. I'm not even sure if Seth Rollins is going to return till the night after WrestleMania. If you've been listening to me for the past few weeks and months, you know that I have pitched Braun Breaker to win the Elimination Chamber, defeat CM Punk at WrestleMania, Seth Rollins to then return the night after WrestleMania, and now all of a sudden Seth Rollins and CM Punk have to work together in a tag team match at Backlash against Braun Breaker and Bronson Reed with the World Championship on the line, with whoever ends Breaker or Reed between Punk or Rollins, or of course makes them submit, would become the world champion. There'd be dysfunction between Rollins and Punk. It would cost each other the victory. Now, this coming Friday, over on the SmackDown side, we have Cody Rhodes and Drew McIntyre competing in three stages of hell. For the record, I really enjoyed the first 3 hours SmackDown, and I was totally against SmackDown being brought back to 3 hours. I thought the 3 hour format in 2025 did not work. Now, WWE did an excellent job of making the first SmackDown of 2026 feel very important with a return of the Viper and Randy Orton. You had the call-ups of course, it looks like Jordan Grace potentially the official call-up of Trick Williams. You have Joe Hendry. It looks like coming over to the Blue Brand. It looks like Oma Femi will be coming over to the Blue Brand. And I like the idea of the Blue Brand sort of returning to where mid-card acts were NXT stars, obviously out to the Javon Evans, who is now going to Monday Night Raw, really becoming the showcase. And then, of course, Matt Cardona comes back. So you are adding a lot of if you will, to the mid card picture. And obviously, we've seen it. We have Dragunov return and him be a staple. You have Sami Zayn wanting to go into the World Championship, which at this point, I understand why, but until you turn Sami Zayn heel, I don't see how Sami Zayn's going to get into the world title picture. I think the world title picture right now is very crowded, and I think that's evident by the fact that they're already running Gunther versus AJ Styles next week on Raw in Germany. Will we return to that feud at some point? But I've been advocating, dating all the way back to, what was that, the November 1st Saturday night's main event when Cody Rhodes took on Drew McIntyre for the Undisputed Championship. I said, Cody Rhodes can go into WrestleMania as the Undisputed Champion. Roman Reigns can win the Royal Rumble. Roman Reigns can challenge Cody Rhodes. Which I think that is the story there. Roman Reigns challenging Cody Rhodes. You get Roman Cody 3. I said with WrestleMania 42 being in Vegas as well as WrestleMania 41, if you want to differentiate the two the best as possible, you got to make the biggest matches possible, which to me is Cody Roman 3. To me, that involves the final boss returning when no one expects him to at WrestleMania 42, and it involves the heel turn of Cody Rhodes. But I said, I think for a short period of time, you can give Drew McIntyre the championship, and Drew could eventually lose it back to Cody. I wouldn't mind if Drew McIntyre won the three stages of Hell match here, and they did the rematch of the Royal Rumble, and Cody beat Drew. And then to me, post WrestleMania, when Cody Rhodes turns heel on Roman Reigns, that's when you do heel Cody Rhodes versus babyface Randy Orton, because I don't think people are going to boo a heel Randy Orton, because Randy Orton is now arguably, now that John Cena is no longer a professional wrestler, at least active, is Randy Orton the most veteran, experienced, most well-known wrestler out there, I think you can certainly, excuse me, I think you could certainly make that argument. So for me, so for me, I would have Drew McIntyre defeat Cody Rhodes this coming Friday on SmackDown. Obviously, the first stage is a standard match, which I'll be honest, I would prefer for all three of these stages to have a stipulation attached. But I think that, excuse me again, I think it's very likely that Cody will win the standard match, Drew McIntyre will win the Falls Count Anywhere match, and then we will go into the final match, the Steel Cage match between Cody Rhodes and Drew McIntyre. And again, maybe I hope something happens or Randy Orton accidentally shuts the door on Cody or something. We know Randy Orton's been feuding with Drew McIntyre really ever since SummerSlam when he teamed with Joey Roll against Drew McIntyre and Logan Paul, so that makes sense. I don't think this is the direction that they're going to go. It sounds like, and again, reading rumors on the internet is often the worst thing we can do as wrestling fans. But it's weird because we can't get away from it. But it sounds like it's gonna be Randy Orton versus Cody Rhodes at the Royal Rumble. I don't know. I feel like there's more meat on the bone there. I feel like you get a feud out of that post WrestleMania going into SummerSlam. Again, with Randy Orton as a babyface and Cody Rhodes as a heel, but that's how I would book it. I think Cody's going to beat Drew, but I'm very much looking forward to these free stages of hell match. And I think that with the mid card influence now on SmackDown, I like the idea of SmackDown being the place where young guys and guys that were doubted, even Cody Rhodes, the undisputed champion, was doubted. Didn't think he'd make it in the business. You got Matt Cardona. Um, I think it's a place where you sort of let these young guys shine. I think it's the place for the tag team division now with an extra hour. Obviously, DIY seems to no longer be a thing with Tommaso Ciampa leaving the company. But I think SmackDown's got a deeper tag team division. I do think they need to work on the Women's United States Championship. Julia being the new champion got absolutely no pop. She has no charisma, no character for me. I won't like Asuka and Kairi Sane. Um, and it's nothing against Japanese wrestlers. It's just, you know, they just, in my opinion, don't connect with the casual WWE audience because they don't know how to cut a promo properly. They all rely on their wrestling skills, and I think they would fit better with AEW than WWE personally. But I think that WWE has started off hot. I said it before. I think 2026 is going to be the year where they make up for all their mistakes. In 2025, I think it's going to be the year that they know they have to get some fans back after a weird year creatively in 2025. And I think Raw and SmackDown are off to a hot start in 2026. Like that clip from the Brands World podcast? If so, make sure you go down there and hit that subscribe button. While you're down there hitting the subscribe button, make sure to also hit the notification bell so you never miss another upload. And make sure you check out all the other clips from the Brands World podcast right here on YouTube.